community. That's the way it's supposed to be. Excellence and perfection is our choice. The Spirit guides our destiny as we let our minds be free. Open up your heart and lift our voice. You are your only limitations. Yeah, break free, do what you can do. It takes a little work. It takes dedication. Don't ever stop. Nothing's holding you. The past was meant to make us stronger. Morning joys will last much longer. Persevere, keep moving, just hang on in there. Keep reaching out for one another. Yes, be there to lift your brother. Pressing forward, showing that you care. Oh, you are your only limitation. Yeah, you are. Break free, do what you can do. It takes a little work, it takes dedication. Don't ever stop, nothing's holding you.
Hi, this is Sherita J, and I'm so excited to be with you today. It's my very first show here at RMC Studios, and I'm so excited. I'm actually kind of nervous too, and it's amazing to me that I'm feeling that way now with all the radio that I've done, but a first is a first, right? I've got some wonderful people in the guests. I have some special guests in studio, some of the top funders from LA 84 and also the California Community Foundation. And we're going to also have a call-in guest, Christine Doby. She's with the Ruth Mott Foundation, and she will be calling us from Flint, Michigan. So already we're reaching across the country. I've got some very special people also here in the studio with me, and many of you already know that we've launched our program called Collaborative 360, and that's where we are working with organizations all over the world and helping everyone to collaborate and make a difference in community. And some of them came out this morning. We had breakfast across the street at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, so I'm sitting here full. I'm full as a tick, boy, I tell you. And so, but I want to thank you so much for coming on. Again, this is Sherita J, and I am happy to be bringing you our show, the Power Lunch with Sherita J. So first, I want to introduce our guests. And sitting right next to me, my dear, tell them who you are.
Hello, my name is Gabby Tovar, and I'm the manager of grants and programs at the LA 84 Foundation.
Gabby, thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you for having
us.
My name is Vera DeVera. I am the director of the Community Building Initiative at the California Community Foundation.
Outstanding, outstanding. Now, I'm going to do something that is probably just a little unorthodox that maybe I don't know if it should happen or not, but I want those individuals that's here with me right now to come around and say hello on camera. That's Bobby Smith and Jean Norris and yes, Mildred, I'm putting you on the spot. Come on around here. And I always say Jean's son, Ramid, right? Yeah. These are some individuals that support me no matter what. They're always in my corner, and I want them to come around and say hello in case they have to leave out before we're off the air. So, Jean, say hi.
Hi, my name is Jean Norris, and I'm with Journey to Empowerment Transitional Living Program.
And Jean's going to be making a major difference with youth, from fostering, emancipating youth to just individuals as far as empowerment and abused individuals. Mildred, step up.
Thank you, Sherita. My name is
Bend
Mildred
down
Simmons.
so they can see you.
Mildred Simmons. I'm a consultant with the Hospitality Food Server Program, Waiters and Waitresses.
And
Los
she's made a
Angeles.
heck of a difference.
Thank you.
And then my sister Bobby, I just wanted her to come and be here as support. Right now, she's just always there for me, and so she came and had breakfast with me. And Bobby, just say hello.
Hello, everyone.
I knew that's all she was going to say. Ramid, come up and say something.
How everyone doing?
And you guys, I just wanted to introduce them because it's nothing like having individuals that's always there for you, always there to support. And so again, it's what I always talk about, collaboration and being there collectively and making a difference. So let's get straight to asking some of the questions, ladies. What many individuals don't realize is, first of all, there's more grants out there than government grants. And so often when I talk to organizations and individuals, they say that they're not interested in grants. They don't want grant funders in their life. They think it's going to be miserable. How can we turn that around in what you tell us today? And that's for either one of you.
Well, I think that there is funding available, and I don't think people should be scared to reach out to us. I think it will take a little bit of work on their part to do their homework to make sure that they're targeting the right foundations.
Yes.
But you know, I don't like to be thought of as somebody scary that can't be approached for funding, and so we try to make things as easy as possible for them. And any questions that we ask, we really need this information in order for us to make a decision.
Yes, yes. Vera, do you have anything to say to that?
I would just say I echo what Gabby has shared in terms of approaching foundations. Don't be afraid. But do your homework is one tip I would give. But also don't forget the local folks that could support their endeavors as well.
Right.
You know,
right.
the local businesses, people who have been involved. There's one organization I know of who said that probably 90% of their donors were actually former volunteers with their group.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, you know, I was reading a couple of reports, and one of them even was saying that since 2007, there's been over $300 billion giving in grants and contributions, not even including government dollars. And then now with the Giving Pledge with Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and all of those 100+ billionaires, we're looking at another over $900 billion being added to that pot. Right. So all of that is not government dollars. Right. So now there's also a lot of questions. Now, when I'm talking to individuals, to kind of take the fear out of them, there's one thing that I always say, and that's no matter whether you're going after 5,000 or 50 billion, there's usually 5 questions that are answered in a grant proposal. Who is your target population? Mm-hmm. What are the problems that you're addressing? Mm-hmm. What are the positive outcomes you're expecting? Mm-hmm. How much money do you need, of course? Mm-hmm. And then what was that other one?
How are you going to spend it?
How are you going to spend it? Right. What are your programs and services?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So whether you're developing a child care center or a hospital,
right.
Those are the 5 questions that are always answered.
Yes.
Would you add anything else to that, or that's pretty much generic no matter how your applications are put together?
That's pretty much generic. I think you covered that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I think also something that a lot of foundations are looking at now is the strength of an organization.
Yes, the
its
strength
leadership, the engagement of its board members.
Yes.
So you'll see more and more grant applications asking for information about the board of directors.
I'm
beyond
so
how
glad,
many
Vera,
people,
that you said that.
But how involved are they in the fundraising for
Exactly.
the organization?
Exactly. I'm glad that you said that, because so many of the nonprofits that I interact with, and even small businesses even, many of them do not have an active board of directors. And they don't realize the importance of that, especially in the nonprofit arena.
Very important.
Well, I wanted to go down and just start asking some questions. And so, Gabby, I'm going to go to you first.
Okay.
And now, in 2013, what was the approximate amount that your organization even gave in that year?
We gave out about $4 million.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. And as far as 2014, or is it going to be about the estimated the same amount? Or?
Maybe a little bit more, but roughly about the same.
Great, because you know that's good to hear, because oftentimes people think because we're coming out of a recession that there's going to be less dollars, and you're looking at giving about the same or
About
even
the same.
more.
Yes.
Okay, and then what are your funding cycles?
So our foundation meets 3 times a year in January, June, and October. And our foundation, if I could just say a little bit more about it so that folks know, we're a legacy of the '84 Olympic Games. And so we only fund youth sports programs in Southern California. So from Santa Barbara down to San Diego, across to Imperial County, we fund only youth sports. So if you have a youth sports program, then I encourage you to look us up on our website.
Okay.
And so we meet 3 times a year, and usually they coincide with the sports seasons. And so we'd like to see an application come in before the season begins so that we can help assess their budget for the year and how much money they're going to need in anticipation of that sports
And
program.
these are sports programs outside of schools.
Correct, outside of schools, yes.
So it can be karate also. It could be swimming.
It could be an individual sport, it could be an aquatic sport, it could be pretty much any sport. So, in fact, how we define sport is very specific. We require that a sports program have what we call TLC, teaching, learning, and competition. So something that is just a tournament or a one-day event probably will not meet our
You want
criteria.
something long-term.
We want something that's sustainable, that is going to be around for at least the season, which is why we fund within the seasons. So we are looking for a structured sports program for youth.
So with that teaching and learning, then a sports program could also collaborate with an anger management program and incorporating that in with what all is going on as far as fighting at the games and that kind of thing.
Sure, if that's what they wanted to do, and they could. So we would only fund the sports piece of it, but if they wanted to collaborate, we would absolutely endorse that.
Okay.
There are many sports programs that use sport as a vehicle for addressing other things. So, for example, the hottest topic now is reducing obesity rates or diabetes rates. And so having youth participate in a sports program will help with those. And so the organizations that come to us have that as their outcome in wanting to improve health outcomes for children.
So you want to be able to see those measurable results.
Yeah, actually, we at the LA 84 Foundation will fund sport for the sake of sport. We don't require that they have a particular outcome. If they do have a particular outcome, then we will ask them about that, but we ourselves will not require them to have an outcome.
Okay.
Playing sport alone has so many values, we
Yes.
believe, in terms of leadership and health and how to play well with others and how to win, how to lose, all these really positive things that we think happen as a result of youth playing sport. So we don't require anything more, but if they want to use it as a vehicle for other things, then we encourage that as well.
Just real quick, I want to give the call-in number. If callers, listeners, if you would like to call in and ask a question of our in-studio guests, the number is 323-965-1600. That's 323-965-1600 if you would like to call in and ask a question. I saw also that you have a program for coaches.
Yes.
What is that program?
So people don't have to apply for funding for us to get our coaching education. It's a 2-hour, what we call Art of Coaching, and it really is intended to teach coaches how to coach youth. And those are provided free of charge to any nonprofit organization that wishes to participate in that. Our grantees are required to participate in that 2-hour course for all of their coaches, but anybody can call in for that. In addition, we have specific sport-based trainings that we could do for soccer, basketball, for some of more of the traditional sports. Those are available also free of charge.
All righty. Well, Vera, I'm going to jump over to you now. And as far as the California Community Foundation, what is your main areas of interest?
Oh, our main areas is almost everything. Let me just explain a little bit about the difference between a community foundation and a private foundation.
Okay, great.
Like LA 84.
Great.
So the California Community Foundation is the community foundation for Los Angeles County. Community foundations, unlike private foundations that get most of their assets from a family or a corporation or a single source, community foundations are actually communities of donors, usually located within a geographic area. So in this case, we concentrate on LA County.
Okay.
And so we get our asset base from about 1,800 different donor funds.
Wow.
Some who are, active in their giving. We've been around for almost 100 years. We celebrate our birthday next year.
All right.
And so we actually have some funds that have been left to us by donors who have passed as well, who have said, California Community Foundation, we believe in you. We want you to make sure that this money goes to the betterment of our communities.
Those are endowments. Right? What are you calling those?
We call those, if they've left the money to us, they become part of our assets. And they are funds from which we get our grant monies from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Most people might think of them as an endowment, because we do have the money being invested, and then the grant money comes off of, I think we spend out about 5% of the growth on those, or the balance of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead. And so I was going to say what we fund. We have a couple of primary program areas where organizations can apply anytime during the year. Areas like arts, education, healthcare, affordable housing, transition age youth. And then we have several special initiatives, which are typically we get money from other funders, and because we're a public charity, we can accept contributions and then grant them back out as well. We have initiatives such as our Bloom initiative here in Los Angeles. It's building a lifetime of options and opportunities for men, focused on system-involved Black male youth here in Los Angeles.
And you called it Bloom.
Bloom.
Okay.
And making sure that they complete their education and that they get into the job market with skills that they need. We have an immigrant integration initiative, working with various immigrant communities here in Los Angeles. And we also have something called Preparing Achievers for Tomorrow, which is a 5-year initiative by an anonymous donor who has left some money to the California Community Foundation, and they're supporting after-school programs primarily in South Los Angeles, but we've extended that to the South Bay area of Los Angeles as well.
You know, I just want to go back for a moment to the Bloom program. Everyone is talking about President Obama's new initiative.
Yes. Yes.
And what I explained to them, that's a great initiative, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But there have been organizations that's giving to those same initiatives anyway.
Right.
And so I don't want organizations to only want to look at the dollars that are coming from our president's initiative.
Yes.
There are so many other funders that are
Yes.
funding the same kinds of programs.
You're right.
And so I don't want them to only look there, and if all of the millions of people are looking there, they're overlooking the dollars that you guys could have to support those same kinds of initiatives
Yes.
as our brother's keeper.
Yes, and in fact, with the Bloom Initiative, not only has the California Community Foundation put some of its own money into that initiative, but we've raised money from national funders throughout the country.
Great.
And in fact, trying to get some of those federal dollars targeted to Los Angeles as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Good, good. Well, now, as far as last year, do you have an amount of what you guys funded in 2013?
In 2013, as a whole, we granted out about $160 million.
Wow.
But let me explain the difference there.
Yeah.
Because we do have, like I said, over 1,800 donor funds.
Right.
Some of those donors are actively making recommendations on their own funds. Some wish to remain anonymous.
Yes.
And they typically make their own charitable giving decisions
Yes.
and recommend them to our board of directors. So out of that $160 million, over $100 million was in those donor advised funds.
Yes.
And so what most organizations are able to access
Okay.
are is about $24 million a year in competitive grants.
Okay.
And that's where folks should go onto our website, which is www.calfund.org, CALFUND.org, and click on the section that says Apply for Grants, and they could read about all the different programs and initiatives that we have available.
Okay. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to give you both websites. You guys, thank you so much for being with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, are you tired of those same old energy drinks with bad taste? Make a switch to Pit Bull Energy Drink with a guaranteed no aftertaste. Pit Bull offers more energy with ginseng and vitamins B6 and B12. With a ginger ale lemon lime flavor, Pit Bull meets the consumer's demand for better tasting and healthier energy products with a guaranteed no aftertaste. Make a switch to Pit Bull Energy Drink. Pit Bull offers more energy with ginseng and vitamins B6 and B12. With a ginger ale lemon lime flavor, Pit Bull meets the consumer's demand for better tasting and healthier energy products. For more information on Pit Bull energy drinks, bars, and mixes, visit their website at hiphopbev.com. That's hiphopbev.com. Online orders available at hiphopbev.com.
Hi, and we're back. What I want to do before I even start talking again is I want to give you the websites of our in-studio guests. Gabby's website with the LA84 is la84.org, right?
Correct.
la84.org. And as far as Vera, she's with the California Community Foundation, and you can go to calfed.org.
CalFund.
CalFund. CalFed. CalFund. That's CalFund.org. Now, you were right in the middle of talking about what your organization, what you look for, and your funding. Can we go back to that?
Sure. I think I mentioned we have a variety of programs and initiatives.
Yes.
I mentioned a few of them, and that if organizations are interested, to visit our website. And thank you for giving the address again.
Great, great. Now, I want to come back. Now, we are going to have Chris call in from, is she ready? Okay. All righty. Let's see. Christine?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi. I'm sorry you were on hold for a while. How are you?
That's okay. I'm very well, thank you.
Good, good. You're at a conference, right?
Well, the conference just ended, but you might hear a little bit of the breaking up cheering noises in the background.
Well, I feel really special for you to stop at the conference, even with it letting out and calling in. Thank you so much for that. Again, you're Christine Doby. Am I pronouncing it correctly, Christine?
Yes.
Is with the Ruth Mott Foundation. You're the interim president?
Yes.
Okay. Again, thank you for being on. Tell us a little bit about the focus for the Ruth Mott Foundation.
Well, being that we are in Michigan, the direct focus may not be as quite as pertinent, but let me say that we are one of hundreds and hundreds of place-based family foundations across the United States. In our case, we fund in three areas: arts and culture, beautification, and healthy living. And then we identify a priority population. And for us, our priority population are low-income children and families, with a particular interest on families of color.
Okay.
The work that we do in those three areas is all meant to do at least two things. One, accomplish specific outcomes in, for example, healthy living, but simultaneously lead to some methodologies of community engagement and community empowerment.
Okay.
So our grant making, I would say, is somewhat complex, but in fact, most of our grantees are grassroots community organizations whose interest is in advancing the voice and participation of low-income residents
Great.
in their communities.
Great. Well, I just want to mention this again. I said it earlier, Christine, and I don't know if you were able to hear on the air, but I want our listeners to know that there are organizations funding initiatives like the My Brother's Keeper all over the country, and not to only look at those dollars, because you're touching on the same thing as our other guests, and even LA84. If you have individuals playing sports, that alone is helping with their self-esteem, their leadership skills, and helping them to become better adults. And so I just want those that are thinking about going after dollars, considering it, to take off the blinders and realize that when you are dealing with a person and when you're bringing positive activities or whatever to them, that touches so many other aspects of their lives. And so, again, I just wanted to mention that. Christine,
can I just say a word about that, too?
Sure.
Many organizations that are really on the ground are not well served by getting public dollars.
Okay.
Often, the cost of getting those dollars is very high in terms of writing the proposals, writing the budgets, auditing the expenditures, writing the reports. They have very high levels often of accountability procedures, whereas often as an organization, you may be just as accountable for outcomes, but you have to ask yourself, is it really in your best interest in terms of your staff deployment to spend that much time on accountability in reporting when, in fact, you might much better advance the goals by being part of a community impact, where maybe some other large entity
Yes.
that has the infrastructure
Yes.
is going after some of that government money, and you are doing your piece of the action. Sometimes I use the phrase from the Hebrew scriptures and the prophet Nehemiah, where the walls of Jerusalem had to be rebuilt. But the
Yes.
approach was, instead of having a big community development project that everybody had to be on the same page, it's like, you fix your part of the wall,
Right.
and you go fix your part of the wall. So there's a way of thinking about community impact that where government plays a role, but private philanthropy and private organizations acting powerfully play their piece as well.
Oh, I'm so glad that you said that, because, again, I keep talking about the importance of collaboration, and there are so many organizations that may, like you said, may not be equipped to go after those dollars, but by collaboration, they can stay in their lane, do just what they do really strong, and those that are equipped with from the staffing to knowing how to do the reporting or whatever, they can handle that piece. So thank you for that. I have a question, and this is totally off of the questions that I sent to you, but I was just wondering if you can answer this. Since General Motors has laid off, and I know that a few years ago I had gone to Flint, Michigan, and I saw such a change in the surrounding communities, what kind of impact has the Ruth Mott Foundation been able to play in making a difference in those communities?
Well, the decline, the problem with being in an area like the one where we operate and having almost a single source employer is that as that industry rises and falls, so does the community.
Mm-hmm.
Given that was simply our reality, we have to recognize that in 1970, GM employed around 80,000 people in the city of Flint alone.
Wow.
The current employment is 5,000 people. So it has had a devastating effect, but a long-term one. In some ways, I think it's easier to respond to the sudden impact of a hurricane or a flood. The devastation comes at you so fast, and you see it so immediately.
Mm-hmm.
In a case like this, and for so many communities across California and elsewhere, there's the long, slow, almost invisible decline day by day that suddenly comes up and slaps your community across the face. And I think that that's kind of where we have been. There's no blaming General Motors. They operate in a global reality.
Right.
But it's just simply that's the result, the impact has been
Yes.
these kinds of. So what we've tried to do, filling in the blanks, is as a relatively small funder, our piece of the wall, so to speak, is to empower people in communities to come up with local solutions that are the right size for the problems that they are facing.
Mm-hmm.
And we believe we play a very important role in our community. While large community developers and others are doing their bit, we make sure that the residents have their voice at the table and that they're part of the design of their own future.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've got to ask you, say, as a small foundation, do you have a number of approximately how much your organization gave in 2013?
Yeah, our grant making is about $6 million.
And that's small?
Well, one of the things that I think is similar to California is Michigan is sort of endowed with some very large foundations.
Yeah.
So we have the C.S. Mott Foundation, the Kellogg Foundation, the Kresge Foundation, some very big ones because this was such a center of industry. So let me put that in a better perspective. $6 million is a lot of money, and you can do a lot of good with it. But you're not going to do really huge capital projects with it unless you put all of your money in just one or two baskets.
Yes, and for our listeners, capital is normally buildings, bricks and mortar. when I'm teaching, we go through some of those words because in the for-profit arena, capital just means raising revenue. But in the nonprofit arena, when you say the word capital, you're talking about normally a building and bricks and mortar. So, and those are, yes, are normally those costly. I mean, one building might cost you $3 million. So, okay. Christine, is there anything else that you would like to, because I don't want to hold you long. I know that you're standing there right outside of a conference.
Oh, I'm yours for as long as it's useful to your listeners.
Outstanding.
The one thing I want to say is that I don't know about the experience of your other two guests, but I find that people are simply, they see the foundation world as kind of mysterious, very elite,
yes,
sometimes distant. And, I want this understanding. It's not my money. I'm not the rich donor.
yes,
It's my job to make recommendations, to develop relationships, and to be as accessible as I can possibly be.
right.
So I'm not a mystery person. Just email, pick up the phone. Not every foundation is going to be responsive, but most are.
Yeah, yeah. It also reminds me of people ask me questions all the time because I work in this arena. And it's like right now, before even coming on the air, I'm getting emails. But there is something about that they think it's going to be mysterious or no, I don't want to ask that out loud or something like that. And that's what I tell them even in the classes. You guys, when you submit your proposals, you're submitting to individuals like you and I that their likes, their dislikes, their even prejudices. So if you are writing for a particular group and you're talking about other populations and you don't like them and you're being judgmental, remember that you're submitting to individuals that may be an organization they want to fund too. But at the same time, again, just tell a great story about what you're planning to do. Who are you serving? What are the outcomes you're expecting? And if you're doing a great job with that, then not guaranteeing you funding, but they're going to start paying attention and looking at what you're doing. So
let me say one more word before I stop, and it is relational work.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that communities often know how to do is build relationships.
Yes.
And getting funding from a private foundation or from a community foundation, this is in great measure relational work.
Mm-hmm.
So don't fear it. It is a bit mysterious. I was a grant seeker most of my career.
Uh-huh.
It's mysterious. It's a bit intimidating. But the problems that you're trying to deal with, they are more important than
right.
your feeling of intimidation in that moment.
But,
so take that courageous step and pick up the phone.
But would you say it's any more intimidating than them writing a business plan and going after an investor?
Perhaps not, but I never had to do that, so I'm not the one to comment.
Well, but I deal with both people in the for-profit and nonprofit arena, and what I say to them is, you guys, nonprofits are corporations. Grant funders are investors. You're writing a document for funding the same way you are in the for-profit arena. But you find people that will start a small for-profit business, keep going after investors, and they don't have fear. They step right out there. But in the nonprofit arena, they freeze. They say they need someone else to do it. They don't even want to know how to prepare it. And the lady sitting here also, give us some enlightenment on that so that they don't only hear it from me.
Well, our philosophy at the LA84 Foundation is to leave the applicant better off than when they contacted us. So even if we can't help them with funding, we have a conversation with them about their program. There may be other funding sources that we're aware of that can help them with their program. So even though we can't fund them, we know plenty of other funders that could help them.
Good.
Beautiful.
So I hope that my listeners and watchers are hearing that and are taking that fear away. Vera?
Yeah, I would echo what Gabby had shared, and also let folks know that sometimes foundations will also help not just to fund your programs, but to help build your organizational strength. so that you can better produce results.
Right.
So in some instances, we'll work with the organizations that have received grants. If they want to revamp their business plan or strategic plan, we may help them to do that. We may also help them to help communicate the results better, track and communicate the results better.
Yes.
So that they can go after, those. I like how you liken it to the for-profit world. You're looking for investors. And what are investors looking for? They're looking for results.
Results.
Yes.
Yes.
And if you can't communicate results beyond how many people participated in your program,
right,
or how much money you've gotten in the door, that's great. But what has changed? What have been the results?
Okay. Christine, if you could just hold one moment, and ladies, we're going to go to break, and we will come right back. Chris, we won't leave you waiting long.
Okay.
Okay, and we're back. Okay, Christine, are you still with us there in Flint? Okay, I wanted to ask, what is the website? Is it ruthmott.org?
Yes.
So that's RUTH and then MOTT.org. And then, ladies, it's calfund.org and LA84.org.
Correct.
Great. Christine, what are the funding cycles of the Ruth Mott Foundation?
We accept proposals year-round, but we do have 3 dockets. So we try to talk people through this so they understand that the recommended proposals will go before our board 3 times a year.
Okay.
So it's in your best interest to understand that, but we accept proposals year-round.
Okay. Would they need to do them complete like a letter of inquiry online, or do they mail in, or what?
We require a conversation with a program officer.
Okay.
Because we do not want people putting a lot of their valuable time into writing a proposal that is not going to be a match for us.
Okay.
And as was previously said, if we can guide organizations to other funders, if we can guide them to technical assistance, we will do that. So we have to have a phone call first.
Great. Great. And ladies, as far as LA 84, what is your funding cycles? What are your funding cycles?
We fund 3 times a year as well, and we'll take them year round. And our so our cutoffs are February for June, September for October, and I'm blanking on the other deadline right now, but our board meets in January, June, and October.
And so it takes about how long for your organization to award in between that time? Like if someone turns in that
it's
cycle?
about 4 months, maybe 6 months at the high end, especially
Okay.
if we have to hold it over for another cycle. But I would say between 4 and 6 months.
And Christine, what about yours?
Yeah, about the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Vera?
I think for many of our core programs, it's about the same as well with our board of directors. But we have a number of special initiatives that aren't open all year round. So I would urge people to check our website periodically because there may be a request for applications and proposals with a deadline that is different than the kind of open all year letter of intent process that we typically use.
And pretty much if they go to any of your websites, if they click on grant guidelines or something similar to that, they can see different questions asked, all of your funding cycles, your areas of interest, all of that.
Yes.
Okay. Christine, is there anything else that you would like to point out for us? Like, for instance,
I don't have it. Go ahead.
what are some of the same mistakes that you guys see on grant proposals?
Well, the biggest and most consistent mistake we see is a compelling narrative submitted with a budget where to us it is a great mystery what the connection is between that narrative and that budget. and these documents should be these two documents should be in a very close and healthy marriage.
You know what? That's just, I always tell people, whatever you say in your narrative, your budget should match it.
Exactly.
So if you're talking about, even when I'm teaching them, I say, if you're talking about staff, if nothing else, put a parentheses right after staff and question marks so that you know to go back there. Because everything that you're saying in the narrative must match up in the budget. Yes. What about some of the mistakes that you run into, Gabby?
In addition to that, I would say not answering the questions posed by the funder. So I think there's some value to organizations having kind of template paragraphs that they like to use across proposals, but those aren't helpful to us if they're not answering our questions. And,
right.
And we are... we ask questions that we need the answers to in order to make a decision. So they're well thought out questions and they're not difficult. And so when somebody puts in this kind of extra information that has nothing to do with it, that makes our job harder because we're having to pick out
what's
the information rather than. So I would say the best advice is make it easy for us, answer our questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Vera?
I would echo everything that Christine and Gabby said, but would add probably it more goes to the answering the question, because many times foundations will have guidelines and criteria, and the narrative and the answers need to make the organization needs to make sure there's a clear alignment with the work that they do along with the guidelines that are set out.
Right.
Yeah, because we get many applications who they'll apply for education funding, for example, and they'll say, we're an after-school arts program. Well, what does that have to do with the education strategy that the foundation is supporting, which focuses on parent engagement?
Yes.
So there's not that direct tie. So people really need to look at the questions, like Gabby said, answer them briefly but directly.
Yeah. You know what? It's almost like when I'm teaching and I say, what in the need statement, what is the need, right? And they start saying, well, we are providing, and they start talking about what they're doing instead. And so I would just keep throwing back at them, why? Why are you doing that? If you're teaching after school programs, my question is why? Is it because in this area you've seen that the test scores have gone down by 20%? You know, you're working with low income families. You know, they so often we'll talk about why they're doing something, and it's just because they really haven't looked at the question. But again, part of it too that I find when I'm talking to organizations is there's just a fear. It's almost like they see the question, their eyes glaze over like a deer in headlights, you know. and that's why I'm so glad to have you guys on today, because they needed to hear your voice. They needed to hear that you guys are regular folks just like us. And all you want to know is, what are they doing? What are those individuals that they're serving? What's going to be the benefits that they're receiving? So again, now, I was going to say, you've got some
Yes.
questions here that I want to get to also. Christine, and you can chime in at any time, okay?
All right.
All right.
So the other important for me, because I'm the person in the foundation that takes all of the calls. All of the calls come through me first. The most frustrating thing that someone can do is submit an application with the contact person of somebody that is way too busy and can't return my calls. And so most organizations think that it's their executive director that needs to be listed as the contact for that proposal. And oftentimes if that person is busy or out of the office and can't get back to me for 3 or 4 days,
Right.
then your request is sitting on my desk that much longer. And so I would say if you can put the person that's running the program, because usually my questions are going to be specific to the program. If my questions are specific to finance, then I will find the appropriate person to answer my questions. But initially, it's that contact person is so important to make sure that we have our questions answered so that we know whether or not we can move it forward.
Okay. We have a caller. Caller, are you there? Hello.
Hi, I have questions.
Yes. What is your question? Hi. Where are you calling from?
Oh, this is Kathleen in San Diego.
Well, hello, Kathleen. Can you turn down your television a little?
Oh, I'm sure I can. Hello.
Oh, someone
Hi,
else
I
is
have
saying,
questions.
"Are you there?"
Yeah. Oops, I turned it off.
Oh, it's echoing.
from?
I'm talking to
This
myself.
is Kathleen in San Diego.
Okay,
Hello,
Kathleen.
I'll turn it off. Hi. I
Hi.
have questions. I can't hear you except on the phone because I had to turn my audio down.
Okay.
So I have 2 questions for Christine.
Yes.
The first question is, I have a new nonprofit, and I'm trying to get grants for Flint, Michigan, but everything requires you to have a track record. And the second one is, I don't even live in Flint. I'm hoping to move there and work with a few other organizations that are already there. Can I still apply for a grant from one of the Mott Foundation?
Okay, Kathleen, hold that thought. I want you to hold on one moment, okay?
Sure.
Okay. Hi, this is Sherita. Christine?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, did you hear her question?
I sure did.
Okay.
Yes, I did. Okay. So, the answers really quickly are, at least with the Ruth Mott Foundation, we will make a grant to an initiative in our community, even if it is not incorporated as a 501c3.
Outstanding.
So we will sometimes try to make a match with a fiscal sponsor or a fiscal agent, as the case may be, or sometimes groups of people find their own fiscal agent or fiscal sponsor. We do need a grantee. I mean, we can't just write a check to a person. And we want a track record insofar as you have one. If you're brand new, we obviously know you don't have a track record. But if you meet our criteria, if you look like, you can get things done, if you match the efforts that we're trying to achieve, we would definitely have that conversation.
But also, they can pour from their resume, right, Christine? For instance, if they're a new organization, but if they talk about, but as the founder for the past 10 years, and their experience can still carry them, correct?
Sure. I'll give you a perfect example. We're working this year with a retired police officer who wants to work with kids on sports programs.
Okay.
Well, he's a police officer. But what we are able to glean from talking with him is that as a cop, he was been working with kids for 20 years. And so he's got some credibility. He's got relationships in the community. He's already gone out and found facilities that are willing to sign agreements with him. Okay. He can pull together a program really quick. Okay, let's move forward.
Good. Let's see if Kathleen got all of her questions answered. Kathleen, did that help you?
Well, yes, that was excellent. And the second part was, can I apply for a Flint grant before I move there?
Let's see. Christine, what's your
we
answer to
we
that?
are our grantee. Our grantee has to be in Flint.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that the person doing the work has to be. I mean, if it's Flint-based work,
Okay.
our grantee has to be in Flint. But we have made grants to organizations in Flint that are, for example, working with someone who has expertise who could be anywhere in the country or even anywhere in the world.
Great.
But one of the ways we have accountability on making sure that the work redounds to the community of Flint is we really strive to have a Flint-based grantee.
Yes. Okay. Outstanding, Christine. Thank you. Kathleen, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great
Great
day.
show.
Thank you. Okay. Let's go back over to you, Gabby. You were going to say something.
I guess the only other kind of advice, I don't want to focus just on mistakes, that I would have for an applicant is to make sure that you have all of your requirements. Every foundation has certain requirements that they ask, really documents that they ask the organization to have. So make sure that you have your financials in order. If you are a larger organization that has an audit and prepares a 990, most nonprofits do, you know, the things that delay a decision on your request is when we're having to hunt those down. So having those documents kind of, there's a standard set of documents that every foundation will ask for. Having those in order, having those, you know, ready to go so that when we ask for them, they're there and it's not, you know, that they're having to ask so-and-so for this document. Right. Those kinds of things, I think, make the process that much easier. And then the other kind of advice that I would say is, you know, that the foundation contact is your advocate. And so not just, you know, before getting a grant, but once you have a grant, communicate with your program officer, whoever is assigned to you. It's important for you to let us know when something is going right, and those are usually the reports.
Don't only contact you when you need them,
right? Right, exactly. But if something goes wrong, it's better for us to know when it's happening so that we can help you, so that we can extend your grant period or figure out how we need to shift your budget to, you know, maximize your use of the grant.
Like, for instance, if the program director got sick and they're not able to oversee the program,
Yes.
so now it's slowing down that process.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then let us know. I think the worst thing that could happen is that we find out when the grant has ended that something really serious went wrong, and then nobody's
I think
happy.
it's even worse if we find out in the newspaper.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And we have had that happen. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Vera?
I guess my advice would also be one that is positive, which is, you know, be positive about it. You know, foundations receive many more requests than they're able to fund. I think typically most foundations can say they can probably fund only 1 out of 10 requests that they receive. But what I like to tell people if I'm talking to them in person or on the phone, and we do welcome calls too, even for those that aren't funded. We ask them to contact us if they want feedback. Seize that opportunity. I think one of our program officers mentioned that after some decline letters went out, only a handful of those applicants actually called him back. And it's
because they don't know. And that's why I'm so glad that they're hearing you today.
So if there's an offer to receive feedback, you know, please, you know, we tell people, please take that opportunity to do so.
Yes.
The other thing is just don't give up. It may take a couple of times before an organization will get funded by a particular foundation.
Right.
And then the other piece of advice I would give is, you know, people always say, oh, well, it's who you know. Well, it's not necessarily if you know a program officer or board member. In fact, sometimes communicating directly with one of the board members or, you know, relying on that relationship to sort of push your grant over the edge makes it more complicated. What I would say is the relationships that are very important are with the partners in the community that most organizations work with, because if we see an application come in, we're going to call other people that work in the same community or
Yes.
do the same type of work.
That's why I tell people, don't lie on your application.
Exactly.
And get those
Exactly.
MOUs, you know, and things to go with that. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So those are some tips that I would offer.
And I used MOU, and I like to, an MOU, you guys, is a memorandum of understanding. When you are collaborating with someone, oftentimes you may attach those to your applications to let the grant funder know that you really have those relationships.
Right.
Now, Christine, is there any, we've got about 5 minutes left on the show. Christine, is there anything else you would like to let us know?
No, I really appreciated that comment. I hear that all the time. It's who you know.
Yes.
All the money always goes to the same people. I hear this all the time. I want to genuinely assure your listeners that foundations are highly desirous of seeking out new relationships.
Yes.
And so I think that to show that you have those relationships in the community, to show that you are collaborative in your work, this is very attractive to foundation program officers. We're trying to maximize the grant making.
And you know what? I'm so glad.
I really appreciated that advice that was just offered.
Yes, I'm so glad to hear all three of you say that because, again, I work with both sides, the for-profit and nonprofit, and they always say, I hear it's who you know, and that's how you get your grants. And I'm like, you guys, really, if that's how they're awarding, that's really against how they are supposed to be funding. They're supposed to be looking at at how the information is submitted, because let's say if my sister works for the such and such foundation and everything I submit to her is funded, she's breaking the law as far as the guidelines and principles in the process. And so again, I'm so glad that you guys are answering these questions, and I wanted you to talk about the mistakes that are made, because people only hear the good things and they only see the guidelines, but they really don't hear what the grant funders are looking at and the kind of mistakes that are being made, and they need to know that. It needs to be clear. So is there anything else that you would like to say? Yes, Vera?
I did want to share with the listeners that here in Los Angeles, the California Community Foundation is working with about 9 other different funders to make funding available for collaborations. It's called the Nonprofit Sustainability Initiative.
Brilliant.
Yes, and so along the whole spectrum, if they want to do joint programming, or if a couple of organizations who have part-time bookkeepers want to share a full-time staff person, all the way to, we're trying not to make the word merger a scary word. They should be able to talk about it because resources are dwindling. And again, sometimes you have greater impact when you do. We're not forcing anybody to do this. It's totally an opt-in type of initiative.
Yes.
And so we'll have more available funding hopefully this fall here in Los Angeles
Brilliant.
County for that kind of collaboration.
Yes. And I'm glad to hear that also, because a lot of times people are afraid of collaborating because they think they're going to lose their identity. And it's not that at all. You want to see the various organizations, the separateness, to know that it's a collaboration versus all one organization.
Yes, and the funding that I mentioned, it's not so much to fund the programs for collaborating, it's actually to have the conversations. And usually it will take an outside person to come and sit down with 2 or more organizations to talk this through, legal assistance, HR assistance. So we're willing to fund that kind of stuff to make the collaborations happen.
Well, I'm going to throw it out. I'm going to throw it out there one more time if we have enough time. If we have a caller, it's 323-965-1600, 323-965-1600. We got just a minute or so longer, maybe 2 minutes. This is and Christine, I don't know if you knew that, this is my very first show here with RMC Studios. I've been on other radio stations, but this is my very first show here, and I'm honored that they have me as one of their esteemed hosts. And you guys have just been such a joy, because this is what I talk about. I actually have a book coming out called There's a Grant for That. And people tease me because that's all I talk about. But there's so many opportunities for people to just get a hand up without it feeling like a handout. And so I love developing collaborations with these individuals that normally, even if they're a motivational speaker and they only speak to those individuals that can afford them. Well, I want to link them to these organizations that are working with single moms and men straight out of prison and that kind of thing. They didn't know that they could do that. They thought, most of the time when people think about grant funders, they think that it's only for those that are dealing directly with the homeless, and that's not them. You know, when they hear the word grant, it's like you're a vampire and they hold up a cross, you know. So you guys, I want to thank you again. This has truly, truly been a pleasure to have you on. Any last comments, Christine? Since you're not right here, I want to see.
No, absolutely not. I cede my time.
Okay. Thank you again for calling in. How's the weather there in Flint?
It's actually a lovely day.
Okay, good.
It's season sunny.
Good. Okay. And Miss Gabby?
I came across this quote today by Nelson Mandela. Sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to unite in a way that little else does. And so for those of you that are out there thinking of providing a program for youth, I think sport is that carrot. It's so much fun for them, and you can get them to do just about anything.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And Vera?
I just want to thank you, Sherita, for having us here today. And I just want to let your listeners know, for those that are seeking grants, I feel your pain. In fact, I'm working on a federal grant application right now with some of my colleagues.
Yeah.
We have a deadline of about a week and a half right now.
Uh-huh.
And so, we write grant proposals
You're
as well as
in that too.
recommendations.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would say, just don't take declines personally. Keep doing the good work. Let the work speak for itself.
And it also doesn't mean that they didn't do a good job.
Exactly.
It's just,
Exactly.
you reached that number. Okay.
Yes.
Well, again, this is Sherita J on our Power Lunch with Sherita J. Thank you for being on our very first show. And again, Vera, your website is calfund.org.
Correct.
Your Gabby, you're la84.org. And Christine, you are ruthmott.org, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Ruth, thank you so much for being on. Vera and Gabby, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Sherita Herring again with the Power Lunch with Sherita J. Herring. You guys have a fantastic week. See you next Thursday, 12 to 1.
We are one community. That's the way it's supposed to be. Excellence and perfection is our choice. The Spirit guides our destiny as we let our minds be free. Open up your heart and lift our voice. You are your only limitations. Yeah, break free, do what you can do. It takes a little work, it takes dedication. Don't ever stop, nothing's holding you. The past was meant to make us stronger. Morning joys will last much longer. Persevere, keep moving, just hang on in there. Keep reaching out for one another. Yes, be there to live your